Dana Denha here, and this is Let's Watch with the Ann Arbor Film Festival. With so many of us streaming our content at home, creating that movie-going experience right from the comfort of our couches, the Ann Arbor Film Festival is partnering with the Michigan Theater Foundation through the AAFF Presents series. You can stream the 2020 AAFF winner for Out Award for Best LGBTQ Film of the Year, Why Can't I Be Me Around You? The film, a character study of Rusty Tidenberg, follows 8 years of their life as they become the person they were born to be. Joining me is filmmaker Harrod Blank and the subject of the film, Rusty Tidenberg. Welcome to the show, everyone. Trying to unmute you here so we can actually hear you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. I hope both of you are doing well.
I'm doing great, Harrod, thank you.
I'd like to start with you because I just would like to get a little bit of background about you as a filmmaker. A little interesting tidbit about you is that your father is a well-known documentary filmmaker, Les Blank. And I'd like to know maybe how he influenced you into becoming the filmmaker that you are today.
Well, growing up, I used to carry his camera and tripod. And as I grew older, like into my teens, I would change film for him. And I actually thought that making documentaries was a lot of work and quite stressful, and there's no money in it. And so I thought it wasn't a great career choice. So as I was growing up, I thought, well, I don't want to do that. And I wanted to be a writer. But then as I went into UC Santa Cruz and I went into the writing major, they wouldn't allow my thesis that I had written in Spanish because I went to Mexico City. They wouldn't allow that. So I changed my major to film. And ever since then, I just sort of excelled. And I kind of took it for granted that my father, just by watching my father, I had learned so much. So when I went into filmmaking and documentary filmmaking, I just excelled.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the story of the van, because this van's also well known, and how that led you to Rusty?
Yeah, well, we have to back up a little bit more, actually, to art cars in general. So when I was in high school, I had an all-white VW Bug, and I was ashamed to drive that car. It didn't represent who I was. It was ugly, and it didn't say anything about me. It wasn't cool. I was embarrassed by it. So my initial reason for doing art cars was to express myself and share myself with the outside world as an art form. And that kind of hit, and I kept working on this car. And then I did a book on art cars called Wild Wheels. Then I did a movie on art cars called Wild Wheels. Then I did a book called Art Cars. Then I did a movie called Automorphosis, which was actually Wild Wheels 2. And after that movie came out in 2009, I was driving to 50 US cities with the movie and the camera van, which is a van covered 2,700 cameras. And I broke down outside of the very last venue, the city of Albuquerque. And that's when I was in trouble. I had my prized baby was on the side of the highway, and the only person that was willing to work on it was Rusty Tidenberg. And then through working on the van, Rusty had asked me to be her assistant, which I agreed to do. And then I just started learning about the trauma that Rusty had gone through in transitioning, and I just couldn't believe it. And that's when I started filming.
Rusty, what was your initial reaction to being the subject of a documentary film about something that's so personal?
Well, Harrod asked if he could film my story, and I felt that I had lived quite a life, speed skiing, drag racing, motorcycle racing, circle track racing. And when he said, "Do you mind if I film the story?" I thought, well, geez, this would be nice. And said, let's do it. And so we started filming the replacement of the engine in the camera van. And my father had, I worked for him in a trailer park that he owned where my shop is, and he'd taken away my salary and made me work by the hour. and it became very stressful doing that. And so anyway, it just was a lot of trauma, losing friends, gaining friends in the community group, and just the whole thing. And I just felt like I had one heck of a story. I'd invented 3 engines and defeated speed skiers that went on to the 92 Olympics. And Harrod picked up on that, and he just wanted to do it, and let's go, you know?
We'll say for the people that are watching this that are going to have a chance to rent this film through the AAFF Presents series, it really is a story that sucks you in. Like, you cannot tear yourself away from the story that is about you, Rusty. And I'd like to ask you about those words, the title of the film, and we hear you poetically sort of say, "Why can't I be me around you?" I think 3 times in the film. Are those your words, and that's sort of how the title of the film came about?
It was actually a very long poem called "Why Can't I Be Me Around You?" And it talked about, the shrink says, "Old lady clothes, just try and fit in, just try and blend." I'm like, screw all that. I love my heels, mini skirts, babe, let's get real. Why can't I be me around you? And another verse was about the hormone doctor didn't want to see me because she felt that I wasn't going through the full transition, and she only wanted to work with people that wanted lower surgery and have become, so to say, real females. And one of the verses was about that. The endocrinologist says, "You're not a good match for me. You don't want to be a woman, you see." And I'm like, as if my hormones don't have a need, why can't I be me around you? And so it's a rather lengthy poem with a lot of verses in it, and we just used it for the title.
Yeah, I think it's very fitting, and watching you say those words felt very powerful, because throughout the film you sort of talk about that you don't really fit in anywhere, like you're not quite this person or that person. You're sort of your own thing, or there's maybe some people that are kind of like you, but it's hard for like doctors to understand, or why you would make those decisions.
Well, the decision to be a she-male was something that I just had chose, rather than to have complete lower surgery, because that takes away all the testosterone, it takes away your muscle packs. And I'd lived a good life as a male, and pretty much as a heterosexual male, like Christine Jorgensen had talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, at this point in time, I've had a hard time finding a relationship, and I'm not closing my mind to having a relationship with a man or a woman. So that's where I'm at now, and it's just hard to find somebody that's in the area. And one of my poems said, "I don't go to bars or online dating, don't want a drunk or stalker awaiting." And I just don't want to go online. I want to meet my person face to face.
Yeah. And that's like sort of the old-fashioned way of doing it, like meeting people now. And I think even now when I talk to like friends that have recently gotten divorced, it's that weird relationship of do I do the online dating thing? Because you're opening yourself up a lot more. You'll meet a lot more people.
Right.
Why don't we talk about maybe some of the stuff that, like, you guys shot this over a long period of time. Was there anything that you felt, either one of you felt like, that didn't make it in the film and you would have really liked to have seen it in the film?
I maybe would have liked to have a better budget for more music, but all in all, I just really think that Harrod and Seward, the editor, did a very good job of putting it together. We filmed over 9 years, and if it would have come out shorter than that, then I wouldn't have the good relationship with my father that comes through in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And we're fishing together in the end of the movie. And if we would have come out with the movie in a shorter time period, I felt that it wouldn't have been quite as good a movie as we ended up with.
I agree. What about you, Harrod?
I think Shore did a great job in editing, and we tried to put in a lot more stuff, but when you make a movie, sometimes the movie dictates what it wants to be. And in this case, we had to lose a lot of things that there were just so many great shots of Rusty in so many different locations, and we just couldn't put them all in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that we did not get, which was an interview with Rusty's father, and I didn't really capture the extent at which Rusty's friends were so dismissive and mean. The stories that Rusty told me, I guess Shore didn't cut a lot of that in the movie either, because Rusty was telling the story, and it would have been, I think, more poignant if we had actually gotten some of that, the friends that had abandoned Rusty. In fact, when I tried to film them, one guy actually threatened to punch me if I didn't get out of his tile store, and I'm not kidding. And that's the type of thing that Rusty had to deal with, which I just don't think people may realize as well. And so I was trying to get some of that in the movie, but it didn't work. And then Rusty's father, did come around after the 9 years, which was pretty amazing, but I couldn't go with them fishing together, which is what I wanted to do.
So is your father still alive, Rusty?
What's that?
Is your father still with us?
Yes.
No, he passed in 2013.
Okay, so he's gone now, but you did have that sort of redemption at the end where you felt like,
Well, my father's still alive. He's 93 years old and just went oarhawks hunting last week.
Okay, so he's in it for the long haul.
He's sharp, yes.
And
Very
so you now, do you guys spend time together? Do you, have a dinner together, or?
Well, mainly when he needs something, he calls me up, and he's appreciative of what I can do for him. And, then the last week I've done some work on his motorhome and washed his parking lot so that he could get the asphalt coated and stuff. And so all in all, we get along good. Our political views are not aligned at all.
Sure.
And so,
well, have you seen relationships with other people that maybe you thought you lost come back around after they had time to process what you were going through?
Well, some have come around, and others say, well, I'll always be your friend, and I love talking to you as long as we're in your shop or at my shop, but I'm not really comfortable being seen out in public with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that a lot of transgenders go through. And I think that our film is trying to inform and educate the people that are not familiar with what transgenders go through and what their lifestyle is. And, one lady on Facebook says, I'd be very uncomfortable meeting you or someone like you. And that's just maybe the conservative side of the United States or the world. And it unfortunately creates a 41% suicide attempt rate amongst transgenders, which is very high.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to inform and educate the people of what we go through, how we go through it, and what our struggles are to try and maintain and live through all of these struggles.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, there's been some beautiful things too. Like, a couple of years ago, I returned to my skis and got a bronze medal in Leadville in a men's downhill. I entered the men's downhill because I still have my male parts, and I don't feel that because I'm not on hormone therapy that it wouldn't be really fair or whatever, even though most of the women had me beat.
Well, I
But
will say congrats. That's amazing.
thank you.
Karen,
So,
do you feel like Rusty's story sort of changed your views on people transitioning, or were you already woke?
Oh no, it opened my eyes to a whole new world, and basically sort of redefines diversity and open-mindedness for me, because I think that Rusty is very human and comes across with very very honestly in the movie and in life. I mean, that's who Rusty is. And yeah, it definitely opened my eyes, and I'm hoping the movie does what it did for me for other viewers. And we're still looking for distribution for the movie.
Hmm.
Ironically, it's having a hard time finding its way, but I'm grateful to the Ann Arbor Film Festival and the Michigan Theater for doing this online theatrical and
Hmm.
the festival. But beyond that, we're still trying to get the film out. Reverie, which is the LGBTQ streaming channel, is going to play it at some point, and Canopy Streaming is going to stream it in the educational market. And that's all we've got so far. And until further notice, we're just going to have the film on my father's distribution company, which is Les Blank Films, and we will hopefully we'll get the film out there more and more.
Yeah, I mean, it's a film that I think everyone could benefit to see. Personally, I've known people transitioning prior to seeing Rusty's story, but Rusty's story made it so much more real to me, and it gave me a better understanding of not why they do it, because it's more like something that's inside of you and it's just part of you and it's just something that needs to be done. But like just who they are, and to not judge people for that and what they look like, or because like I think in the past when I've met people, it was like they were one person and then they were another person, and it is sort of hard to, like, all of a sudden they're a woman and you're like, I keep forgetting what name to call you, or like those sort of feelings. And I'm sure Rusty's dealt with that a ton.
yeah,
Oh, I dealt with it too. Me and
Yeah.
Rusty dealt with it.
Yeah.
and in the movie, it was kind of at the first of my transition, and everybody was still used to calling me he. And, we've had some backlash on that because there's probably only one or two characters that refer to me as she. And at the end of the movie, we come through and say, in my mind now, I'd rather be called she, Miss,
I think that
her.
was part of why people were confused in the film, because you referred to yourself as a she-male. And so that's where, like, what pronoun is that?
Right.
That's like that confusing aspect of it, where like, and the confusion is what sort of turns people off, I think. And I think watching something like this sort of opens the world up for people. That's how I
Right.
felt, at least. Even knowing people that have transitioned, it just opened up a new world for me of understanding.
Well, at one point in the movie, we talked to Marcy Bowers about doing some lower surgery, and she recommended against it. But I went ahead and had that done, and now I can wear high hip swimsuits with no problem. And it was called a scrotoplasty. It's kind of like a breast reduction of the scrotum. And, I'd recommend it to any of the serious drag queens that are having a hard time masking themselves.
So you
And,
could still potentially
well, I'm very satisfied with the surgeries I've had, and things have gone well, and the recovery time's really short comparative to life. And, generally pain is only a week or more, around a week. And after that, it's just learning to live and sleep with the adaptions I've made,
Sure. Yeah. Why? So how did it feel to be a part of it this year, the 2020 58th Annual Ann Arbor Film Festival?
It was great.
I think Go ahead, Rusty.
It was great. Last year was our debut. We've won 7 awards now and been all over the country thanks to Harrod and film festivals and stuff, and all the work Harrod's put into aligning these film festivals. And most all the people in the Q&As after the showings have just been all hugs and kisses, like I just came back from World War II and they don't want to let me go, and they just feel like everybody needs to see the film. And it leaves me wondering why somebody hasn't picked up the film at this point, but Harrod's been working hard. He's been out a lot financially to promote this film, and he's been doing a great job as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, being in the Ann Arbor Film Festival is totally cool, but normally we would have been there in person.
Yeah, but you would have been there.
I would have been there.
Yeah,
I had a plane ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
I was
is a
coming.
shame. The festival is so exciting. It is awesome that they were actually able to share the festival with pretty much anyone around the world this year.
Yeah, we have people from Thailand, Canada, and England that were tuning in during the festival. So that was pretty cool to reach an international audience. And, my father has been at the Ann Arbor Film Festival with his movies in the past. And I've been there with, I believe I was there with Automorphosis, the art car movie.
Okay, so this is not your first foray into...
Yeah. I love the Ann Arbor Film Festival, and I love the Michigan Theater. It's such a cool, gigantic theater. I also made an art car at University of Michigan in their sculpture and design department. Yeah, I worked on a tree coming out of a car about 5 or 6 years ago.
That's amazing. That's so awesome. But we are running out of time. So before we go, I'm going to navigate over to the Michigan Theater website so we can just see how we can get the rental for this. But while we're there, so on the website, you can obviously watch the trailer to see more. I would play it right now, but it's going to just be buffering the whole time. And then you can rent. Here's the rental information over here. Why don't you just talk about why you both feel people should rent this movie, why it's so important that people rent this movie?
Go ahead, Harrod.
Okay. Well, for me, I just think that it's a great platform to look at diversity of gender, and the fact that Rusty is in both genders per se, in between, that makes this film more unique. And I mean, we have gotten in a little bit of hot water about that, but on the other hand, this is what it is. And so I just think that it's a good thing for people to come to understand better the diversity of gender. And so I'm hoping that the movie does that for people. And we put a lot into this movie. We put a lot of, Rusty's heart and soul, and Shure Dyke, the editor, and myself, and there's a lot of other people that worked on it too. So it's a pretty big labor of love, this movie.
Rusty, did you want to add anything on to that?
Well, I think that especially the people who should maybe watch this movie might be the parents of transgender youth, because they can learn a lot about what their children are going through that they don't understand. And, we had a lady come to our community group once that was with a program that would help people understand, especially the fathers that don't understand. And they would say, well, just go to Disneyland for a weekend and let your child be the person that she needs to be, name, and tell me whether that person is happier being who they are. And the parents would come back from Disneyland and say, you're right, my child is much happier as a female than as a male.
Mm-hmm.
And they would realize then and get on this site's chat group to help them deal with what's going on. And so I think that parents who have transgender children should definitely rent this movie and educate themselves.
All right. Well, thank you both for chatting with me on this edition of Let's Watch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Watch this and other CTN series online. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor. And remember to like, comment, and share. I'm Dana Denha for Let's Watch with the Ann Arbor Film Festival.